Hello and welcome to Eastern Horizon. This is Malik Ayub Sumbal, and in UK, the political chaos and the future of the British Prime Minister hanging in the Parliament. After this Labour's election, in which the Labour's got some lost of major seats, British Parliament facing another political crisis. So how this UK political crisis will unfold, I have joined from Belfast, Dr. Peter Doran. He's a lecturer at Queen's University Belfast, and we will discuss about this. That what is the future of Keir Starmer? Will he stay in the office, or what would be the next? So thank you very much, Peter, for joining me.
It's good to be with you again, Malik. Thank you very much.
My player. So let me know that what happened in these Labour elections, local bodies that have a very strong impact on the British Parliament. So how you would like to elaborate this? Because it is something like in a parliamentary democratic system, the local bodies, I mean, how much influential, especially in the UK?
Okay, so there were two sets of elections last week, on Thursday last week, and they have been catastrophic really for the governing Labour Party under Keir Starmer, um, and it has caused quite a panic in the backbenches of the Labour Party at Westminster. But as you've pointed out, the elections were for local authorities or local councils, but also for the Scottish Assembly, the regional Scottish Assembly, and the Welsh Scottish Parliament as well. And in both Wales and Scotland, the Labour result was very poor. In fact, it was historic in terms of the result from Wales, because for the first time since devolution and the creation of a Welsh Parliament, Labour was defeated and lost control. And now Plaid Cymru, the Welsh Nationalist Party, have taken the Prime Minister or First Minister's position. So that's the regional result. The Labour Party also lost hundreds of seats up and down the country to Reform, which is the party led by the pro-Brexiteer, so the Nigel Farage has reinvented himself now as the leader of Reform. But there's also, and this is interesting, apart from losing seats to Reform, Labour are also bleeding support to a resurgent Green Party, who are really coming in from the left, especially attacking Starmer and Labour for their support for Israel and the US and the attack on Gaza, and of course the more recent attack on Iran. So Labour are losing out to their left flank, to the Greens, and to the right flank, to the Reform Party, which is a reinvention of the Brexit Party, you know.
Hmm. So the question here is this: that how long mean that Starmer can stay in the prime minister office? Mean that most of the European newspapers even have the headlines that how long the prime minister can stay. So I mean, what next for the prime minister?
Well, when you ask me that question, Malik, I'm tempted to look at my watch. It could be, it could be, it could be a matter of minutes or hours or a week. Um, we've heard now as a result of the election results, there has been a collapse, a further collapse in confidence in the leadership of Keir Starmer, which was even before the elections, it was in crisis, really. He's losing support. He's probably one of the most unpopular prime ministers ever. And before the election, he had a series of crises. He lost, for example, he lost his ambassador to Washington, Peter Mandelson, over Mandelson's associations with Jeffrey Epstein. Uh, Starmer, in a related crisis, then lost his chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney. And that's part of an interesting story as well, which provides maybe the fundamental uh, explanation for Starmer's weakness. But let's go back to that in a moment. The immediate crisis is as I say, the catastrophic result of uh, for the Labour Party in the elections. The decision by a quarter of his MPs, 100 MPs, have called for him to step aside. And today we're expecting his health minister, a senior minister, Wes Streeting, who also comes from the right of the party, by the way. It's not an ideological challenge, but Wes Streeting, who has harboured leadership ambitions for some time, is going to announce, or we expect him to announce, his resignation from the Department of Health Ministry and to announce a challenge to Starmer's leadership. In other words, he'll precipitate a leadership election within the Labour Party if, this is the big if he has 81 MPs who are prepared to sign that challenge and trigger the election, the internal election. Starmer would automatically have to stand in that election, that leadership election within the Labour Party. What I'm expecting to happen if Streeting does trigger a leadership election within the Labour Party, we'll see a number of other contenders come forward. So a number of others are keeping their powder dry and not putting their head above the parapet until Wes Streeting comes out and issues the challenge and then initiates the electoral process. So, who are the other contenders, you might ask?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah. This is
the
my question that we yeah, because I think there are four cabinet ministers. I think they have already resigned. I think because the media is reporting like this. So in that case, mean who is who in this labor and who is in this race to lead the Labour Party? Mean that who is who? The top four. Mean
right.
that can you explain? Mean that who is who?
Yes. Now, the resignations have come from junior ministers, and then there's a number of ministers who, for the most part, are close to Wes Streeting. So this is a kind of an incremental attack or announcement of Wes Streeting's plans to challenge Starmer and an attempt really to this was the resignations were an attempt to put pressure on Starmer to to create a clear field and to voluntarily walk away from number 10 Downing Street without a messy, chaotic electoral contest. So what's going to happen instead is that Wes Streeting will have to challenge Starmer. Starmer will then have to decide whether he's going to hang on and contest that election. But the other candidates are likely to come from what's known as the soft left of the party. Um, there's a possibility that Angela Rayner, the former Deputy Prime Minister, will stand. She has just received a clear bill of health on her tax affairs,
Yeah, yes,
which
yes,
was
yes.
preventing her from coming forward.
Yeah.
And then the man of the moment, apart from Wes Streeting, is the Andy Burnham, a former minister, a popular minister from across the party. Now he has a difficulty. He's a very popular candidate to replace Keir Starmer, but he is the mayor of Greater Manchester and doesn't have a seat in
Hmm.
Parliament, which would make
Okay.
it practically quite difficult for him to lead the party. So Andy Burnham is on manoeuvres, looking for a volunteer, an MP, to step down and to precipitate a by-election, to give him an avenue or a road back into Parliament, and to do that within the timeline that the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party decide for the contest, if the contest is declared sometime today. So
Mm.
Burnham has his work cut out. He not only has to has to successfully stand against Keir Starmer, but has to get into Parliament before he can do so,
Mm.
and fight that election.
Mm. So my question is this, that you are observing, I mean, that the UK parliamentary system, and especially why it's becoming more challenging, and why, I mean, that for a British Prime Minister to complete his tenure, and before he go, I think there is an in-house change. So how you see this, that especially inside Britain, so
Yes,
this is something like the strengthening of the parliamentary system, or, I mean, how you people look it on this when there is a
yes,
sudden change and the prime minister is going like just like finish, and maybe a few years, like one, or sometimes 1 year, sometimes 2 year. So
that's right.
this is
That's
a
right.
precedent, or what we can say this?
Yes, I mean, I remember the days when British commentators and politicians would, look down their nose at Italian politics and the chaos and the regular elections in Italian politics and the revolving door of prime ministers. And now, as you've observed, we have a similar deep instability and fragility in the political system in the UK. And I think a lot of it goes back to Brexit. Certainly, that was what destabilized the Conservative Party. We've talked about this on other occasions, Malik, the divisions within the Conservative Party, the instability, and the redrawing of the political map with the rise of the Brexit Party, the rise of Nigel Farage, the shift to the right. And really, all of that is symptomatic of a shift in British politics. What we're seeing now in the Labour Party is a similar fracturing, fragmenting, the collapse of the two-party system. With
Mm.
the collapse of the Labour vote, we're seeing the rise of the Greens to the left, the rise of a right-wing racist party, the Reform Party under Nigel Farage, the Conservatives and Labour taking a relatively small share of the vote. So we're seeing a redrawing of the political map, an instability, a collapse of the mainstream ideologies. And I would say that while Brexit um, has been the trigger for this, the long term shift or change in politics um, goes back to the decline of the UK, and with the regional results in Scotland and Wales, it's not only a decline in the economic fortunes of the UK, but a decline in the UK model. There's a fracturing of what we used to call the empire state. It's a
Mm.
unionist state made up of four jurisdictions, and there's a real danger that there'll be a breakup of the union with the reassertion of nationalist politics in Scotland, the coming to power of nationalists in Wales, and of course the leadership of Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland, along
Mm.
with DUP. So you've got kind of centrifugal forces bearing down in an historic manner, really, in terms of the future of the UK as it navigates with some difficulty its new place in the world as a middle-ranking power. Um,
Mm.
with the costs bearing down on the working classes in particular, and the success of the Reform Party in
Mm.
exploiting the disaffection of the working classes and
Mm.
able to attract them to the proposition that they need to be, to place the blame on migrants, for example, rather than on the mishandling of the national economy.
Mm. So yeah, this was my question. That I mean that where you see that the suffering, especially the normal, the common Britishers, I mean that in this political race and the chaos and the instability, I mean where are the sufferings and I mean that the problems of the taxpayers who actually elect these politicians. So mean that where there are problems, mean that because as we saw there is a highest unemployment rate, there is a highest inflation. So when we compare this political instability and especially the massive sufferings of the common people, so then what is this correlation and how we can explain that is this parliamentary transition or what is going on? Mean that between the people and especially the politicians.
Yeah, well, the decision to leave the European Union was a massive act of self-harm. Basically, the British government constructed a new trade barrier between itself and its major trading partner. One of the most powerful regional economies in the world, and under the Conservatives, they constructed trade barriers and cut themselves off from major markets. And one of the developments under Keir Starmer, and the Keen's speech actually yesterday, Keir Starmer's government announced that they were going to begin a new alignment with the European Union institutions. So they're beginning to realize that a lot of the economic pressure has come from the damage done by Brexit and the decision to create new barriers. Now, the the so-called cost of living crisis, which in some ways began with Brexit, or certainly was amplified by Brexit, has been followed by the extraordinary rise in the cost of energy, not least because of the crisis in Ukraine and the UK's response to that, or the European response to that as well, with the rise in the cost of energy. And that's also um, impacting on the cost of goods. So the government doesn't appear to have answers. In fact, some of their geopolitical and strategic decisions and their alignment with the European position against Russia, for example, all of that is compounding the self-harm and the damage to their own economy at the expense of the working people.
Mm. So, if I mean that the current prime minister resigned and there could be the new prime minister, so what would be the challenge for that prime minister? So that whether that would be an in-house change, I mean that the prime minister could be from the Labour Party. So, what is the difference? Mean that if I just want to ask this question, that I mean there will be the next prime minister from Labour's.
Yes. Well, the change that we're looking at, if the change happens, and Keir Starmer is forced to contest an election with a challenger, Wes Streeting, and one or two others, that will not result in a change of government. The Labour will remain in government. They've only been in government since 2024. They've another 2.5 years to serve. So this will be a change of prime minister um, and the continuation of the Labour government under new leadership. Now, the role that new prime minister will play and the impact of that new prime minister will depend on which part of the Labour Party he or she comes from. If if Wes Streeting, who is likely to challenge the Prime Minister and trigger the change and the election, the leadership election, if Wes Streeting gets into power, the only change will be a change in the tone of government. Wes Streeting comes from the right of the party. In many ways, he comes from a similar position to Keir Starmer. So we would see very little terms of change.
mm,
Streeting is already involved in a controversial decision to hand a big contract to Palantir,
mm,
for data management within the health department, the National Health Service. He is associated with a drive to privatize parts of the health service. He's facing opposition by doctors and nurses within the system. He's also very closely associated with the Israeli lobby. In fact, it has been said that if Streeting did succeed in toppling Starmer and taking the position of Prime Minister, it would be definitive evidence that the British system is completely controlled by the Israeli lobby, uh, specifically the Labour Party friends in Israel, who have
mm,
cultivated Streeting since his days as a student activist in the NUS.
mm,
Now, we
mm,
would see some change in terms of the policies if a successful candidate was to emerge from the soft left. Someone like Andy Burnham or Rayner or even Ed Miliband, who are more centrist and much more ready to intervene in the economy, in the rail industry, the steel industry, the crisis in the water industry. They'd be much more ready to intervene to address some of the crises in the public infrastructure.
mm.
So in that sense, there might be a change in tone if a successful candidate was to emerge from the left of the party.
Hmm, 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 hmm. So, how the things will be changed? I think it would be, I think, in the media in the next couple of hours. So, I really appreciate Dr. Peter Doran for your insight. We really get some insight about, especially how the system and the parliament works. So, we will conclude our broadcast here, and we will be together in some another broadcast. Thank you very much for joining, and I would ask our viewers that you can share and subscribe Eastern Horizon. We really need your support to promote this objective and the unbiased and a new way of the opinion that we would like to tell about the geopolitics, international relation, and especially news beyond the headlines into the global politics. So, thank you very much, and take care and bye bye.
Thank you, Malik.
Thank you.